With the recent release of Moana 2, we were treated to not just the continuation of the Moana franchise, but also the continuation of the Disney animated universe. You see, about a year ago, Disney released the movie Wish, which helped connect a lot of Disney animated movies together for their 100th year anniversary, and I decided to make a video connecting all the Disney movies and shows that fit into this world together, which takes viewers 75 minutes to watch at 1x speed, and took me about 2 to 3 weeks to put together. This theory is very similar to the Pixar theory, or another theory I created, the DreamWorks theory, but with its own set of films and stories connecting all of these characters together. So when I heard Moana 2 was being released, I knew it was time to continue this theory. So, welcome to Big Flick Energy, and let's get right into how Moana 2 fits into the Disney animated universe theory. So for starters, the theory goes that most or all of the Disney animation films are linked through Easter eggs, cameos, storylines, and sequels to create one massive cinematic universe. The overarching story follows the Lion King's famed circle of life, alongside the magic that comes from the gods all the way back from Fantasia, alongside seeing animals progressively becoming smarter as time passes. Now, this movie obviously fits in given it's the sequel to a movie we already fit in with the first Moana, and in that first film we established that spirits, like Moana's grandmother, come back in the forms of animals similar to how we saw spirits come back in both The Lion King and Brother Bear. This is how the circle of life works, that while these stories take place in very opposite ends of the earth, and at very different time periods, the way spirits communicate with the living doesn't change much. We see this again in Moana 2 through Motai Vaza, who comes to Moana in the form of a spirit whale shark to give her advice and even tells her to follow a shooting star to find the island of Motufetu, which brings back a very familiar storyline we've seen throughout many films in this animated universe, with the wishing star seen in Wish, Pinocchio, and so many other films. Now, this isn't the same star considering it kind of explodes, but it's a nice tease of the last Disney film Disney made before Moana 2. Another minor thing I want to touch on is we do see animals being both intelligent and non-intelligent. We have the chicken in this movie that is obviously very dumb, even though for some reason the chicken solves a lot of the problems in this movie. So maybe he's secretly a genius, but who knows. But we also have the pig that is evidently much smarter, and you can tell the animation that they put to the character makes him look like an actual character that knows what's going on in the story. But the next big point to make is Moana as a Disney princess, where now, for the second straight movie, she says she isn't a princess, which I believe makes what we established in our first video with Wreck-It Ralph 2 make even more sense. You see, in that movie, Ralph and Penelope meet all of the Disney princesses, and one of them is Moana. In that video I made, we established this would only make sense if the stories of the princesses were passed down through generations, where they became Disney characters in a very meta way. Now, her reiterating she's not a princess, and Maui still calling her a princess, saying a lot of people think she is, makes it clear that the version of her we saw in Wreck-It Ralph that is fine with being a princess is obviously a coded version of her that believes she is what the stories say instead of what she actually is. The real Moana from her own films is not a princess. The coded Disney Moana from Wreck-It Ralph is a princess. What Moana is, though, is now a demigoddess similar to Maui. In Moana 2, she died towards the end of the movie, but is resurrected by the demigod Maui and the spirits, thus allowing her to become a demigoddess. Similar to Maui, who is powered by his fishhook, Moana is powered by her magical ore, and it continues what we last saw in Wish with Asha's wand making her the fairy godmother, and also in The Sword of the Stone and Sophia the First, that many humans who gain great power are through magical items enchanted by whoever the gods of this Disney animated universe are, and by their magic. Anybody can become magic or a demigod with the magic in this world. And when we're speaking about magic, we can't forget to talk about the genie in the lamp from Aladdin, and how we continuously see different characters throughout the Disney animated universe show they have some similar powers to him, but he is all-powerful, just trapped and forced to do somebody else's bidding. What I'm talking about with these similar powers is that outside of Maui being able to transform into any animal and pull an island from the bottom of the ocean, he can also see the future similar to how the genie could with transforming into different Disney characters throughout history, like Pinocchio and Dumbo, and making 20th century references. Maui, very similarly, has transformed into Sven from Frozen, and in Moana 2, very clearly makes a joke about butt dialing and says it'll make sense in 2,000 years. Looking more and more into it, and considering Maui knew the giant crab Tamatoa before the events of the first Moana, and Tamatoa actually has the genie's lamp in his treasure collection, I would not be surprised if, similar to how Moana was given her powers by spirits of the ocean, and her powers as a demigoddess show her controlling the waters, that perhaps the gods Maui mentioned in the first Moana that gave him his powers and made him a demigod weren't Polynesian gods at all, and instead gave him a very different type of magic, Arab god magic, or genie magic. He can't grant wishes, but he has the genie's other powers to a lesser level, making him one of the most powerful demigods out there. With Tamatoa expected to come back in Moana 3, which they definitely set up in this movie, hopefully they do more of a deep dive into these characters and Maui's backstory, since it looks to be more of a demigod central story. And then, when the film comes to a close, Moana and Maui have brought back the island of Notufetu, breaking the demigod Nalo's curse, allowing for all the nations and islands to begin communication and relations. This will eventually lead to a time period where humans travel across the oceans freely, as seen in Tangled, Frozen, The Little Mermaid, and Tarzan, 4 movies that are deeply connected through the shipwreck Anna and Elsa's parents went through, which we can now put a name behind who created that storm with Nalo. We know Elsa's parents were traveling to Atohalan to try and discover what the truth of Elsa's powers were, and eventually through that film, we discover her powers are tied into her destiny of restoring balance between the spirits and the human world. If the balance of the spirits in the human world is so heavily tied with the circle of life, as we spoke about earlier, I guess Nalo can kind of be touted to be the circle of life's biggest op. He wants to hold power over the humans, as seen with his hatred of humans in Moana 2, so the humans having any connection to magic for him is a major threat. Especially after what we saw in Moana 2, and what I'm assuming we're going to see in Moana 3. Outside of this, a small Easter egg that teases the next movie in this world is that while the credits are rolling, we see a quick shot of Gary the Snake, who will show up in Zootopia 2, which will be the next segment of this Disney animated universe theory. So where does this currently take place in the timeline? Obviously, it takes place right after Moana, and Moana takes place in the 1st century AD, and Moana 2 takes place 3 years after that first movie. And right after Moana 2, well, not right after, about 500 years later, is the next property with The Sword in the Stone, which takes place around 500 AD, which will keep the tradition of characters gaining strength or power through these magical items. So with that, we see how Moana 2 fits into the Disney animated universe theory, whether it be through how the spirits appear through the circle of life, how magic can be granted to humans through magical items, how Wreck-It Ralph's Moana is a version of the character that is a Disney princess while Moana herself isn't, how Maui's magic is genie magic or Arab god magic and not ocean magic or Polynesian god magic, and how we now have a name for who caused the storm to kill Anna and Elsa's parents in the form of Nalo, the god of storms. This movie feeds incredibly into the larger Disney animated universe. And with that, thank you for watching this video. Please comment down below your thoughts on Moana 2, on how it fits into this world, and your thoughts on the Disney anime universe as a whole. Tune in next week for when we talk about the best Christmas franchises to binge this holiday season. Thanks again for watching, and see you all next time on Big Flick Energy.